Let's start today with Joe Calzaghe, the unbeaten former world champion, enjoying his retirement, as Steve likes to say. But will it last? Well, Richard Schaefer, who's the chief exec of Golden Boy, admitted to us this week that he's keen to tempt the former world champion back into the ring. He represents Bernard Hopkins, among others. Bernard could step up to cruiserweight, but as far as he's concerned, Joe is the one he wants.
Well, Bernard Hopkins is always looking for the biggest challenges, and that certainly would be a huge challenge. Bernard moving up to cruiserweight, and not just fighting a cruiserweight, but fighting Thomas Adamic. So I'll be talking to Bernard later on this week and see if he really wants to do that. I'll be talking to Joe Calzaghe as well, because I can see a huge event if Joe would want to do one last fight from Wales. And Bernard Hopkins gave me specific instructions that he would come to Wales to fight Bernard Hopkins.
And you can hear that full interview with Kieran Baines on our website, setanta.com. In the meantime, Bunsey, heard from Richard Schaefer there. Calzaghe, Hopkins, do we want to see it again? Could we see it again?
Well, what we do know, Andy, is it would be a totally different fight. Last April, something happened. It was a different Bernard. It was Bernard Hopkins, not the executioner. You remember the slight difference? He came out for the Pavlik fight a few months later with his arms crossed and his leather hood on. He came out for Joe Calzaghe smiling. That wasn't the Bernard Hopkins, that was a Bernard Hopkins.
Why?
Because, you know, I'm not quite sure. I can't get my head around it. My gut feeling is that Bernard Hopkins underestimated Joe Calzaghe. My gut feeling is that Bernard Hopkins read too many websites, watched too many films, believed Joe Calzaghe slap, believed this and believed that, and got his maths sums wrong on night. It was still a tight enough fight. Joe won it by a couple of rounds, but still a tight enough fight. When he fought Pavlik, I think he felt maybe a bit more under pressure. Fight we had here on Setanta, and he was a different fighter from the start, and he gave Pavlik an almighty beating, even though Pavlik, we know, hadn't sparred, bad elbow, forget excuses. And in many ways, there is a degree of unfinished business. Not that I want Joe Calzaghe to end his retirement. The man's gone. I want him to be happy with his kids, with his new girlfriend, if she's going to become his wife. I want him to be a happy boy. He's made his mum happy, and he's made people happy. And in many ways, Andy, he's got nothing to prove. All he's got, as Richard Schaefer alluded to it, is he's got something to earn. Now, this is the key. Money can drag you out of retirement. Even Lennox Lewis has put a price on it. 100 million US, and I'll come back. Okay, so picture this. David Haye knocks out Klitschko, David Haye knocks out the other Klitschko, David Haye knocks out Shagayev in a year's time. Trust me, there might be 100 million. I mean, that's fantasy fights, don't get me right. But Joe told me that no amount of money, money wouldn't be the reason he came to the ring. So it wasn't no amount of money. It was a slight difference. It was money wouldn't be the reason he came back. Pride. For these boxers,
what sort of shape, though, will Joe be in? As you alluded to, he has been relaxing since he stopped working out. He's working on the promotional side of the game. Physically, could he make weight again? No, I don't think he'd make light heavy, but you wouldn't make it a light heavy. You'd make it somewhere between light heavy and cruiser, a few pounds over. Bernard's already talking about going up and fighting Thomas Adamic, the IBF champion, who just about is being considered the best cruiserweight in the world, who himself's considering doing a David Haye and Evander Holyfield and moving up to heavyweight. So let's say Joe comes back. You know, listen, Joe would look good. You know, Joe used to put on a few pounds anyway. It's not about the money, although a lot of money might persuade him, but I'd like to think that Joe would only come back if he truly believed what Schaefer said and what Hopkins has been saying, that there is unfinished business. My gut feeling is there's no unfinished business, but hey, you know, I've been wrong more times than I've been right, Andy. Hey, Golden Boy, Richard Schaefer, they've got the money to spend on this fight.
Absolutely. It's a one-off beauty, big.
Let's think about this. Combined age of 81.
Yep.
Say we're not going to make light heavy anymore. Is that sufficient enough spectacle to demand we watch the fight, for the public to demand the fight?
Absolutely, Andy. I think the pay-per-view numbers in America would add up. I think the money, Setanta would love it. It would be a massive show for us. And I think if not 50,000, then 49,500 would pack into the Millennium. Bernard Hopkins said in late April last year, I'll have a rematch. Please give me a rematch. I'll come to Cardiff. I'll come to his home, oh, not his hometown, but near enough his hometown, because his hometown, obviously, is Hammersmith. The fight could be at Fulham. Craven Cottage.
The Apollo.
You heard it here first. Craven Cottage to house the rematch.
We shall see.
No, it won't be at Craven Cottage. I was winding you up.
No, I don't believe you. I'm just being polite.